All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever been told, you did a fantastic job, and instead of feeling proud, you get this weird, sinking feeling of discomfort? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers on the hidden psychology behind why it can be so ridiculously hard to accept a simple compliment.
You know the feeling, right? Someone says something nice, and your gut reaction isn't joy, it's suspicion, or just pure awkwardness. You might feel your shoulders tense up, you want to just deflect or downplay it or change the subject as fast as you can. But why? Why does a genuinely positive message so often land like it's a threat?
We're calling this whole thing the compliment conundrum. It's this really puzzling but super common pattern of pushing away kindness when it comes our way. And yeah, on the surface, it might just look like you're being modest, but as we're about to find out, there's something way deeper going on inside our heads.
So, does any of this sound familiar? You get praise and you immediately shoot back with, "Oh, it was nothing." Or you're the one to point out the one tiny flaw in your own work. Or maybe you even start wondering, okay, what do they really want from me? These aren't just little quirks, they're actually classic defense mechanisms, and they tell us a whole lot about how we truly see ourselves.
Okay, so what is actually happening in our brains at that moment? Well, the core of the issue really boils down to this fundamental conflict, a total mismatch between what we're hearing from the outside world and what we believe on the inside. And this all comes down to a really cool concept called identity alignment. See, our brains absolutely crave consistency. It's a deep-seated need for our experiences to line up with our internal story, our core beliefs about who we are. It's the brain's way of keeping our world stable and predictable. And here is exactly where that conflict happens. Just imagine someone gives you this great piece of positive data. You're brilliant, but your internal identity, the story you've been running in your head for years, is something like, "I'm just barely getting by," or even, "I'm fundamentally flawed." That new positive info creates this psychological tension. It's like a glitch in the system. So, and this is the crucial point, your brain's rejection of the compliment isn't really about being humble. It's a protective mechanism. To resolve that inner tension, the easiest and fastest path for your brain is to just discard the new information, the compliment, to protect the stability of your existing self-image, even if that self-image is a negative one.
But hang on, where does this negative self-image even come from? I mean, it doesn't just appear out of thin air. To really understand it, we've got to look backward, into the echoes of our past.
Our early environments are kind of like a training ground for the brain. So if you grew up in a place where you were constantly criticized, or maybe you were the scapegoat child, or perhaps your successes were totally ignored while your mistakes were put under a microscope, your brain starts collecting data points.
And over time, all of those data points, all that evidence, it leads to one single, powerful, and deeply ingrained lesson. It becomes this core belief that gets wired right into your sense of self. I am not quite enough. And this becomes the fundamental truth that you unknowingly carry with you into adulthood.
So, flash forward to now, as an adult, when someone offers you praise, your brain filters it through that same old lens. The compliment just doesn't line up with this massive archive of data that says you're not good enough. From your brain's point of view, the compliment isn't a gift, it's an error. It's a mistake in the other person's judgment. Now, these echoes from the past, they don't just stay in the background. Oh no. They show up as these very specific, very active, and defensive thought patterns in our daily lives. You can think of them as the mind's hidden traps. And it all happens in this split-second cascade. When a compliment comes your way, the brain can trigger this rapid three-step defensive process. It's all designed to neutralize the threat and get back to that old familiar belief of being not enough. First up, you've got hyperactive self-awareness. This is when you are constantly monitoring yourself, replaying conversations in your head, always looking for your own flaws. And because you're so intensely focused on all your internal mistakes, you feel like the person complimenting you must be missing the real, messy truth. You're thinking, oh, if they only knew. The second trap is a fear of expectations. Accepting praise can feel like you're signing a contract to perform at that high level forever. It takes away the safety net of just having potential and puts you in a position to be judged on your actual results next time. So rejecting the compliment is a sneaky way of rejecting that pressure. And finally, there's the suspicious worldview. If you grew up believing that your value is conditional, that it's based only on what you do for people, then you just assume everyone else thinks that way too.
A compliment isn't seen as genuine kindness, it's seen as a social tool or even a manipulation. Your brain's first question is always, okay, what's the catch?
Now I know after digging into all of that, it can feel a little heavy. But here's where the story takes a turn for the better. Because understanding the why is always the first step to changing the how. It's all about rewriting your response.
Here is something that is absolutely crucial to understand. These patterns, the self-criticism, the deflection, the suspicion, they are not you. They are not your permanent personality. They are learned responses, wired into your brain through years of experience. And the good news is, anything that can be learned can be unlearned.
I want you to let this one really sink in for a second. Your past gives you a powerful explanation for why you react the way you do. It gives you context. It lets you have compassion for yourself. But it does not have to be a life sentence. It does not get to define your future.
So, where do you even start? It's actually way simpler than you might think. Real, lasting transformation begins with just one thing: awareness. Simply noticing the impulse. The next time someone gives you a compliment, just notice that urge to push it away. You don't have to do anything else. Just see it. That's it. That is the beginning of change.
Because once you are aware, you have a choice. And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. The next time a kind word comes your way, will you just let it land? What's the first compliment you'll choose, consciously, not to push away?